Hey everybody, my name is Celia and I'm the person that's helping Samoiya bring forth her message to the world. This is Samoiya Shelley Yates and her son Evan.
Hello.
Hi. This is a great opportunity to say thanks for all the engagements and the comments and everybody, coming forward to talk about this. It's really great to see. Thanks so much.
Yes, thanks guys. It's great to interact with all of you on TikTok. It's been fun.
So one of the things that we're going to do in this video is we're going to answer all of the questions that we've collected so far from the comment section of the TikTok videos. Before we go into that though, we want to share a little bit about why Samoiya is coming forward with her story now and how it relates to the near-death experience that they both went through.
Yeah, so I'm not sure where people are with respect to knowing our story, but basically the story of Evan's near-death experience and my near-death experience led us to create a world project. So when Evan was dying in the hospital, the being said to me how to charge his body and to get his vehicle working again. Well, fast forward to 2007 with Fire the Grid. It was about doing the same thing, that type of jump starting the Earth vehicle. Mother Gaia, in her dim light, needed to be charged. And on Fire the Grid 1, that's what we did. We jump started the planet the same way we did with Evan. And basically what they said to me was, what you did for a dying boy with a small group of people, we're going to do for the planet. But instead of hundreds, hopefully we'll have millions. So if we just keep calling out, we have another couple of days and we can jumpstart the Earth back into a really vibrant place, elevate our own fields and elevate the Earth field and get on with the next stage of finding joy and being in gratitude.
So that's on July the 19th. So in 2007, it was about basically the planet was deteriorated to a point energetically that was so low that it's like survival was in question. But now what's different?
Now what's happening is we're getting ready to make the shift ourselves from the fourth field into the fifth field. And we have not been successful in anchoring so that we can continue to use it as a playground. We need to raise the frequency of the people that live on the planet so we get ready for the fifth field, which is the fifth time humanity will move into trying to make Earth a stable, happy, prosperous, abundant planet for everybody.
And so it's very simple, right? Just for 1 hour at the same time, all around the world, everyone is going to raise their frequency, just do whatever brings them joy, whatever it is, if it's like eating ice cream or going for a walk or sitting in the sun or meditating or whatever.
Allow yourself to sing it, to dance it, to color it, to, anything that's going to be joyful while you create joy. I love eating food. It's my favorite thing. Like, wow, this is so good.
It's a shame it makes us fat.
Yeah. But everything in moderation. But anyway, you want to connect to this energy field. You want to say, yes, I'm part of it. That's the biggest on switch. Yes, I know it's there. Yes, I know I'm part of it. Yep. And say thank you. Yep. But as I always say, it's a free project. It's us. We've come together to do it. I'm just a messenger. I really appreciate everybody who is working with us to get this moving as quickly as possible. These beings didn't give us much time. It's with gratitude that I thank you for, passing it on. And again, I say, if anything in this resonates with your heart, not the thinking box, but the feeling box. And if it resonates, pass it on and let's blast Earth with love light on the 19th.
Awesome. That's great. Okay, let's get to the questions.
Yeah, so we've been reading through your comments, guys, and there's a lot of them. And we're going to answer some of your questions to clarify some things.
First question that seems to be really coming up a lot is this real?
Well, is this real? So person one, person two, we're still breathing. So actually the whole story is real. If you had asked me 17 years ago if I would believe in this being real, I would have said no. But it is real because it's happened to Evan and I, and
we've been dealing with it for 15 years.
Well, it's 17
17.
years. It's been 19 years. Well, there you go. I'm even behind the 8 ball. So, yeah, it's a very real story. Fire the Grid was real in 2007. And me running away and hiding whenever I got a chance, that was real too.
Question, what is it like to die?
The process of dying is delightful. Dying is not a scary happening. The getting to dying is kind of scary. So the actual part where the body has to stop working is scary, but it's pretty quick. But the actual dying is like falling asleep. So it's actually easy to say to somebody, if you're dying, the getting there may be kind of miserable. You know, you have to go through the human act, but the actual dying part is just, that's where they say it's bliss. Do you have anything to add to that?
It's just a letting go. It's just a transition. It's nothing more than that.
Yeah.
It's not ending. It's not over. It's just different.
Were these beings angels? Some other people are wondering if they're negative entities.
Well, interesting enough, back in 2007, this exact same conversation came up. Oh, well, these are the devil, or these are negative entities, or they're negative ETs, or, you know, this is all, we're all being manipulated to do something. Well, for starters, the first thing I can say to you is that the beings that I've spoken to have never spoken a word of negativity. They only ever speak about unity, love. We want to help you. We want to ease your way. Something huge is coming for humanity. We want you to be part of it. So there's never been any kind of conversation that would alert me to the fact that there was something negative going on. But I did go through a stage where people were like, oh, well, how do you know it's not the devil? How do you know it's not a negative person? And that's when Emoto got involved. Now, we can give Celia the little crystal. It's probably somewhere, but she can probably post it right here during this part of the conversation, that Emoto measured the energy in water and what it could create. So he decided to do an experiment where he would take a drop of water and influence the water with thought, either by taping it on the bottle or by sending the information through energy. And in the end, you would get a crystal. So if it was a positive thought, you would get a crystal. If it was a negative thought, you get a little implosion. And all these things were showing people that water could be manipulated. So what Emoto did was actually put Fire the Grid on a bottle. And his findings is that if it makes a crystal, it has to come from God. If it makes crystalline forms, if it makes beauty, then the information is coming from positivity, coming from light beings that want to help us. So have a look at that crystal and tell me if it says negative to you. It was a reassurance for me that that was truth. So he even went to Bolivia to do the Fire the Grid on top of a mountain. It was that positive. So that's my story.
You see them as extraterrestrials. And this person, another person asked, are these angels? How would you answer to who these beings really are?
Okay, so my understanding of who these beings really are is we all have a suit. You're Celia, this is Evan, I'm Shelley. That's the suit. But inside of Celia and inside of Evan, inside of Shelley is a photon of light that is from the pool of light, the God source. The being that lives inside of each one of us is the same power force. So for some of us, what shows up for us to be taught and learning from is angels. And for other ones of us, what shows up and comes forward are extraterrestrial or otherworldly based. Now, Evan had a pure experience. He saw angels, you know, very God-based experience. He went down the light into the tunnel. He rested in the arms of God. Now, he can't remember a lot of it because it's been lost. But
you did say, I told you that God looked like Jack, which you assumed meant God looked like love.
Yeah, well, at that point, I was involved with a man named Jack, and Jack loved Evan, and Evan loved Jack. So God looks like love. But basically, it's what you need to feel comfortable. So when you die, for instance, what you need to be comfortable with the experience of death will come. So if that's nanny or mommy or something like that, you know, that will show up. If it's extraterrestrials, because when I died, I didn't get God or light or angels. Evan got light and angels and God. And I was like, God, I can't even die right. You know, where's my angels and light and all this? I got otherworldly extraterrestrial type of beings. When I asked, why did I get that and Evan got angels and light and love? They said he had no preconceived ideas or notions. His mind was pure and ready to accept whatever came. I definitely had ideas and conceptions. I didn't believe in God. I didn't believe in angels. I didn't believe in anything that really had any supernatural, but I could believe in extraterrestrials.
Another question is, how do I connect to my mom, assuming that this person's parent has passed?
Okay, so a lot of people have asked about how do we connect to the dead. Now, you got to remember the only thing dead about your mom is her physical body, right? Her physical body has changed. Now, here is the beauty of this. Your mom's love for you hasn't changed.
It's still there.
That love is abundant and forever. And the only thing, she has shifted out of a suit that you recognize as mom. So the thing is, you want to connect with that energy, and that energy is ours to connect with. You just have to say yes. That's the first place. Yes, I am some sort of being in a suit. And as soon as the suit dies, it doesn't mean your connection with that person has disappeared. You just have to use a different type of telephone system. Instead of sitting in front of each other drinking your tea, you have to center yourself quietly, maybe a photograph, anything that's going to bring you to the remembering of that person, anything that's going to plug you into their energy field. It could be, oh, smell is really powerful. Like if you have something that still smells,
It's
right?
like entry-level telekinesis.
Entry-level telekinesis. There you go. The more you can get tingles in your body, the more you can close your eyes and really summon that sense of connection to this person. And you get a little goosebump. Now you're in the zone. And then you start talking. But you have to be patient, because you got to remember they're going to talk to you through an ether you haven't experienced before. It takes time to push that tube open. The more faith you have in yourself and the fact that you're not just a human being, the easier it will be to connect with anybody on the other side.
Why would you have a miraculous NDE, but why would another person pass on?
Okay, so the planet's been in peril for a long time.
I was about to say, I think it's because we have a message to bring positivity. We were the ones who would do it.
When I asked that question to the beings, they said, when we came forward and asked for volunteers, you literally jumped up and did the woo, 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 pick me. and I think he just came behind me going, me too. And so we had this event, which is our kind of proof card. So now we can come forward and saying, do you realize that you're not just a human? Because when I can get you to understand that as a truth, then we can go to the next step, which is, now that we acknowledge we're not just human beings, now we can come together and do that plug-in thing all over it. All these hexagons, right? And they're all plugged in to each other. The outside forces, the otherworldly beings, have been sending help for a very long time. So that's the first thing we have to do as humans, is acknowledge that that energy that's coming to help us is inside of us. We deserve that help. That help is us. It's either coming from the future, and I have lots of communication that comes from the future, or it's coming from our, like right now, right here, the veil is so thin between us. You know, it's not just Evan and I sitting here. We have a whole bunch of otherworldly beings sitting here with us, as do you. The question is, do you want to just connect with them? Do you want to figure out what you can do once you do connect with them?
What did the doctors think about all of this?
They sent 7 or 8 neurosurgeons from across the country. And they got there and they wanted to interview Evan. And they said to me, can we interview your son? I said, well, you ask him. Because I was not the type of person that would say, yeah, sure, go ahead and interview him. So they asked him. And the guy had a little penguin in his pocket. And Evan said, well, if you give me that penguin, I'll answer all your questions. To which I looked at him and I said, brain dead, eh? So he wasn't brain dead. Not only wasn't brain dead, you know, all the things that they said weren't going to happen, like he was never going to walk, he was never going to poop, you know, the list of all the medical stuff he had done in 24 hours.
Basically said, give me 3 weeks and watch me.
Anyway, so in 24 hours, things, once we went to recovery, things happened very quickly. And when they sent these doctors, I came out in the hallway and I said, well, did you get all the information you wanted? And they said, yes. And I said, would you like to know what we did? And he looked at me and he goes, no, we're trying to figure out what we did. Now, I want to point out, we had the best medical hospital care on the planet. They did their job perfectly. They tended to the wires and the pumps and the pipes, and that's all we are in vehicles. We're vehicles, you know? And they tended to all the physical aspects. They kept him alive so that I could do the energy part. Now, that works for all of us. We have two bodies to tend to. When you go into a hospital, as soon as you acknowledge you have two bodies to tend to, now you can start to get better, differently, better, quicker.
So you just answered this question, the next question, which is, can this kind of healing help cancer? Okay, so now we have some questions to help some of the people who are naturally skeptic about this amazing experience. And so, I mean, even you had your own doubts about like what had happened to you. And so they're picking up on some things that they have questions about. So the abandoned road.
Oh my gosh, that abandoned road.
It wasn't abandoned. It was literally like, what, half an hour from downtown?
You know how you're telling a story and you say a flub? You know, like, that's a flub. It was an abandoned road. It's not a well-used road. It connected two segments, Waverly and Bedford. Now, most people who live in Waverly, Bedford use that road, but most other people go around the highway. So it wasn't abandoned. It was just a road that wasn't used very much. And we were lucky that the day we were on it, it was used because somebody found us.
Yes. We're a little waterlogged by the end of it.
Some people have questions about the car seat in the front.
Oh, okay. So that was a big one back in 2007 as well. You know, oh, your child was in the front. Okay, so here's the situation. Evan weighed 49 pounds the day we went in the lake. And Nova Scotia had just, I don't know if it was a recent ruling or not, if you were 45 pounds, you could sit in the front seat with a lap belt. Now, it wasn't my habit to put him in the front seat with a lap belt, but the back seat was filled with stuff. And I wasn't going very far, so I put him in the front seat with the lap belt. So when we actually drowned, and I was like, is there any air in this car anywhere? I took his body and I pushed him over my head and I pushed him out into the back. And of course, the back seat was filled with stuff. God knows what. He must have been so confused because,
you know, even now I have a hard time picturing what happened to you guys underwater because the car was upside down. So were you sitting upside down, or did you fall and sit on the roof of the car inside?
Well, these things were interesting too for me. So part of the problem when the car flipped upside down and landed on the roof, I was disoriented. We literally flew up, you know, and people were like, that's another one. Oh, that couldn't have happened. Well, not in the real world, but in the supernatural world, something influenced and affected what was happening. So the car flipped up over the rail. It was very high and it went out and dropped. And when it dropped on the roof, I mean, that was like a bomb.
It shattered the front windshield.
Yeah, well, it didn't shatter it because we couldn't get out, but it spider webbed. If I'd known, I could have put my feet on the windshield and probably popped it out. But we were upside down and I unhooked our seat belts and stuff. We stayed upside down. This was where I was confused. Even though I was a scuba diver and a swimmer and I was really comfortable in water, I was definitely confused as to where I was. So when the water started to move, it was coming up over my head first, right? Because we were upside down and we hadn't flipped around. But at that point, I had put Evan out in the back seat. So why was I confused? Well, funny, because Mythbusters is a television show. They actually threw a car in a pool. They did it where they lowered the car in the pool, and they did it where they threw a car in the pool. And the lowered one guy was like, oh, this is no trouble to get out. But the one that Buddy was flipped over and dropped in the pool, even though he was in scuba gear, he freaked. The guy had to come and get him out. So the action of literally banging down on the roof like that really sent me to a place that I didn't know what was happening. I was completely confused. But after seeing Mythbusters, I was like, well, see there, that's fair.
A little more disorienting.
Yeah.
That answers a whole bunch of questions about like, oh, why didn't you do this, or didn't you know that you could take the headrest out and stuff like that.
I saw a couple of people make videos, or they made comments like, why didn't you just open the door? It's like, why didn't I think of that?
Well, you can open the door. I tried opening the door, but the equilibrium. So because I was a scuba diver, I knew the car had to fill up completely before you could open the door. But I, in my confusion, thought the water was coming up this way. So as it came up over my nose, I only had this little bit. But that's not what happened, because the water was coming up over my face first. And by the time it hit my chest, I'd already needed to breathe. So, why didn't I pull out the headrest and smash the window? Well, that's where I get a bit facetious, and I'm like, well, gee, did you think you might have thought of that when you were in the middle of the drowning? I don't know. Anyway, I didn't. That's it. I didn't. I did the best I could. If I'd known, I could have put my feet on the window and pushed it out. But the last thing I consciously did, to tell you how confused I was, the last thing I consciously did was, the window was open about this much, probably 6 inches or so.
Something like that.
And I tried to put my foot out through the window. So I was twisting my body to push my foot out through the window, because I was going to pull the car up over my body. I was going to have one leg out, and I was going to pull the 2 windows and pull the car up. That was my last dying thought, was that, oh, I'll pull the car up and he'll have air. So I'm telling you, your brain just does some strange stuff, because obviously if I'd gotten my foot out the window, they probably wouldn't have got me out.
That's funny. So just because I just want to understand this, I've been wondering this for years. So you were in your seatbelt upside down, and that's why you were still upside up, or did you fall down and your head was on the ceiling and that's what kept you up? Like, what kept you upside down?
I can only think the water. Now, my seatbelt stayed on my body. I thought I had taken the seatbelt off of my body. So these are the things that you're definitely confused. I had reached over and undone his seatbelt, and I had hold of his clothes, like I was hanging on to him. So I mustn't have undone my seatbelt, because the guy who pulled me out said he had to cut it off. So I would have obviously been still locked in there. And Evan, I took and put it into the back.
I was still floating around in the car when they pulled it out with the tow truck, so.
Yeah, he was floating around, literally.
Yeah, I'm just hanging around.
Floating in the back window. I said, make for a good movie scene.
Okay, so some of the other questions are about, that article that lady back in the day did some kind of
Oh, the words that we will not say out loud?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so the reason I said the words that we will not say out loud, you know how Voldemort's Harry Potter's nemesis and we don't say his name? Well, this particular woman came out of nowhere. And I don't say her name because I just don't give her any thought. But anyway, she came out, and you'll probably find her if you dig around, because she's still there plugging her piece, which blows my mind. It's 19 years later. And you're still telling me, I'm telling lies, or this is not true. Whatever. So the fact is, she never interviewed me. She never called me. She never contacted me. She never asked me a single question. I have told you more in this set of interview questions than she would have ever heard. So she just took it. Her entire premise was based on the fact that I wrote a letter to the people, and I didn't tell them that I was talking to extraterrestrials. And she decided that that was the lie, and therefore it was all a lie. And the truth is, come on, think about it. Little tiny, place in Canada, little island in Canada, a miraculous thing happens, and she wanted me to come forward and say, oh, guess what, guys? Here's how weird I really am. I didn't want to tell anybody how really weird I was. Now, obviously, it's like, who cares?
So why are we firing the grid right now?
So why are we firing the grid right now? And that's a cool question, because these beings came to me and told me that something had happened. They actually used the words, the current circumstances have elevated past where we are comfortable. They want us to intervene with our energy. It's our planet. It's our experience. They are guides and counsel to us. and they want us to keep our experience.
But they won't interfere.
But they can't interfere, but we can interfere. And so they said there was a volcano going off in Iceland, and that it was going to set off a chain of reactions that will not be positive for the planet. It was going to cause a lot of catastrophe. And they said the 19th of July is going to remedy that as well.
So just before we end off, I just want to just help some of the skeptical people who are trying to figure this out for themselves. Where would they go for resources or to learn more or to understand the science behind us being energy beings in human bodies?
So there's 2 or 3 resources that I want to tell you about. Okay, so if you're having difficulty wrapping your head around this, David Hawkins talks about frequency in his book. And you can Google that book, maybe Celia can put it up or whatever the title of the book is. That talks about frequency and how we use it as humans. If you go online and you put in grid, there's several people who have written books about the Earth grid and ley lines and how all that works. There's several people who have written about their near-death experiences and how that all works. But for me, it's been 19 years of taking little pieces and asking myself, do I believe this? And the biggest one I can only ever really tell people to grasp onto is the first statement: do you believe you're more than the body you live in? That's as simple as that. Close your eyes, sit with the energy in your gut. Close your eyes and say, am I more than just this body? And I suspect if you sit there quietly, your vessel, the being that lives in it, will answer. Yes. Yes, you are. And that's the biggest one. And once you start to really acknowledge that, yes, I'm more than this human in suit in my body, now you can start to follow some threads on the internet. Things will pop up. You'll Google, David Hawkins' book about consciousness and energy, and then, oh, look at that. That's interesting. And you'll follow that one, and you'll follow that one. So there's lots of books on near-death experience, angels versus aliens. The Ancient Aliens series is filled with conversation about how they possibly interact with us. But I could definitely do a video also, if it's something people want to see, about how do we interact with each kind of being? And how do we know we're dealing with a positive being versus a negative being? Because there are positives and negatives. It was the one thing Evan said when he came back from his drowning, was that there was 2 groups, the dark ones and the light ones, and they were having a war for the planet.
It wasn't good or bad, though. It just, like, light and lack of light.
Yeah, it wasn't a judgment of the good guys and the bad guys. It was the dark and the light. And actually, if we took it one step further, he did say that God had 2 armies of angels, the dark ones and the light ones. So for anybody who does like the concept of angels and the God theory and the tunnels and the lights and stuff, his experience was definitely filled with angels, God experience, resting in the arms of God, pure potential, pure love. That's why I said I can't even die right, because mine was like extraterrestrials in the sky.
Okay, great. So everybody, Evan has his own TikTok account, and you can go and check it out and see some of the awesome videos that he's been posting. Just want to quickly mention our social media manager said a documentary recently that she watched that was good was Surviving Death. And there's one on Netflix, actually. I think that one is a different one. I don't remember what that's called. After Life or After...
Yeah, something like that.
Beyond and Back. I didn't expect so much support. It's mind-boggling how many people are latching onto this.
Yeah, I think it's something that was really giving people a lot of hope, and hopefully that it can bring a whole bunch of people to the July 19th event. So if anybody wants to find out what their time is, you can hop on www.firethegrid2.org and you can see the time in your local area, and then we can get that done.
Well, I guess that's it. You've seen me and Evan. Evan's here with his lizard, and you've seen us. We're real. You've heard the stories real. I thank you for coming together to and there's our friend Moose. Yep. So it's a big thank you. Like, let's unite. This is the time. This is time for us, the people, to come up over what everybody else says we can or can't do. You know, if I'd listened to what the doctor said, he wouldn't be sitting here. Just say yes. Yes, I'm an eternal being in a suit. Yes, I can manifest and create the world I want. Yes, this world is going to be better, powerful, and more dynamic than it ever was before because I contributed my time and energy to this project. Just say yes. It's your vote.